Be Your Own Pet Mommy album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album, a comeback album from Nashville-based garage punk and garage rock band Be Your Own Pet. They, burst onto the scene of the garage rock and punk genres in the early 2000s with their very memorable and cult classic self-titled debut album, which I do enjoy. I do enjoy still. It's a very sweaty album. It's just a very frantic, energetic, fun album. There's a lot to like here, and at the time when it came out, it really was scratching a lot of itches, especially for me. It had the very sweaty, beer-soaked sound of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. They had the personality of a band like the Hives, but they also had the rugged riffs and the punk energy of just so many great bands of the time period. But that all being said, I actually prefer their follow-up album, the Get Awkward album. And yes, you can argue that the production is a little cleaner on this album, which it is, but the songwriting is so much better. The hooks are incredibly catchy, and the energy is up all around. Now, like I said, this is a comeback album of sorts, because this is their first release in 15 years. And, leading up to this album, I thought they sounded really good. And you know what? I would just say that they have not missed a beat clearly from this album. This album starts off with Worship the Whip. Yeah, this is a great single. I've loved it since it dropped. It's upbeat, it's energetic, it's sweaty, it is kinky. Like, is it hot in here? But you could say that about a great deal of tracks on this album. This is nothing short of the garage punk that I grew up with, and it sounds great. It's a great intro, a fantastic single, and for a band that hasn't put out any material in 15 years, they sound like they haven't skipped a beat. Goodtime, this track is also really, really good. This track is a little bit more frantic. It's a little bit more all over the place. It's a very manic track, but the excitement is here. It's really just in your face, and the personalities on display are just commendable. Good luck sitting still, because I certainly can't listen to tracks like this. Erotomania is really great too. I mean, this album is just, it's a kinky one for sure, but this track is even more frantic and more sweaty. This one comes armed with a very jagged riff that I really love. And I do want to point out, a lot of the tracks on this album, they don't overstay their welcome. A lot of them are very short and sweet, most of them around 2 minutes and 30 seconds to about 3 minutes, with a few exceptions, but none of them seem understated. Most of them just seem very complete. This track is fantastic. It's super, super, super catchy too. And Bad Mood Rising takes a turn for a much more paranoid sound. It's a much more gritty track with some bite to it. This track has a lot of feedback that's used within the guitar riffs. I think that's done to their advantage. It makes this track very dangerous, very tense. Ugh. But it still has that wild, sweaty energy to it, and a hell of a hook. I mean, yeah, I would take this over most garage punk these days. Now, there are a few moments here where, I don't want to say I worry, but it just seems like, there's some growing pains on here, some tracks that just don't pan out the way that they hope they would. Like Never Again, for example. This is one of my least favorite tracks here. It's still very much a wild-eyed garage punk jam, but I don't get the same feeling out of this. I do love the energy, and there are certainly some memorable one-liners, but overall, I don't have the same personality to it. This doesn't strike me as a Be Your Own Pet track. And I have a lot of the same feelings on Pleasure Seeker. I actually think this is one of the worst tracks here. The crunchy riff is nice, but the energy on display here is just not up to the Be Your Own Pet standards. Even from a songwriting stance, the band takes a big step back, especially when you compare to so many other tracks here. I mean, it's just a big disappointment for me. Like, so many tracks on this album, albeit straightforward, just get the point across in a very timely fashion. This track's not exactly much longer, but it feels like 3 times as long. And Teenage Heaven, for me, it's a little too far from home. Now, we will get to a track later on where Be Your Own Pet take a more pop-centered sound and make it work, but this is not it. I actually do really like the dreamy, laid-back vibes and the slide guitar. That's all really classy. But the songwriting is far, we are far from home, friends. So yeah, there are some weak moments that were a little disappointing, but overall, this album is a freaking blast. Rubberist is one of the most obtuse tracks here. I love the groovy riff and just the weird off-kilter vibes that come with it. It's one of the more commanding tracks here, and I just love the noisy, scuzzed out chorus and the bells in the background. It's not the wildest track here, but it's probably the most hip. Big Trouble, on the other hand, one of the more noisy and genuinely intense tracks here, and I love that. Like, this is heavy, surprisingly so. I didn't think they could get this heavy. And the guitar tones, while super straightforward, are just scratching so many itches on this track, and the chorus, once again, is top notch. It has a little dose of attitude that I didn't expect to hear, but I'm glad that it did show up. And that goes double for Hand Grenade. This album all of a sudden took a turn for the angry, and I'm not pissed about that. It's got just this great amount of grit to it, and a big old sing-along punk chorus that just had my fist in the air. And Drive, as one of the last tracks here, is one of the biggest surprises here. This is one of the most personal and front-facing tracks here, and it does show the band going for a slightly more pop-oriented sound. But between the backing vocals and this hook, which, no joke, might be the best one on this entire album, the band pull it off. Yeah, I'm really happy with what we got here overall. I mean, yeah, it's a little straightforward of an album, but for a band that hasn't released anything in 15 years, they sound like a well-oiled machine. The energy is here, the personality is here, the production is great, it's sweaty, it's fun, the hooks are catchy, and yeah, there's some awkward moments, but I would take this over most of what passes for garage punk these days. I'm feeling a strong 7 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.